So first off, you're gonna need to get some grout, just any kind of grout. This is what I use, and make sure it's white grout. And then something to mix your grout with and in, and some water. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit of grout in. And then a little bit of water. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of water in at a time so I can kind of mix as I need. And you want your grout, make sure to be a little bit thicker. So if it looks a little too watery, just throw in a little bit more grout. The safest way to mix this, the easiest way, is put in more grout and less water and slowly add in water as you go. Okay, still need some more grout to get it to thicken up. Adding grout until it starts to get thicker in consistency. Alright, I'm almost there. Put a little bit more in. Almost like a thick frosting texture. Alright, and then once you got that mixed, you want to get your brick. You want something to apply it with, so I just get these from Home Depot or Lowe's, and you're just going to apply it straight on like so. So I'm just going to grab a little bit at first, and be careful because it can get really messy, and just throw it on your brick. It doesn't need to be perfect. You want it to kind of just be slapped on and messy to get your textured look. Kind of add some in between your bricks, and then we'll add some detail in just a minute. And you can put some on and take some off in places, and keep it thicker in others. Alright, once you got that laid down, you're going to want to let it dry for just a few minutes. The best way to go about this as it dries is when you're working on a larger piece of brick, wall brick, is start in a little section first and lay it out like this, and then move to your next section and do the same thing. And while this is drying, once you're done with this section, come to this side and start adding your details in between your brick. So I'm just going to drag my finger down the black lines where I've already applied my grout, so you can see more detail. I just set that aside to dry in the sun for a little bit so we can make the process a little faster. But if you guys have ever worked with grout before, it dries quickly. So in that case, while you're working on your project, if it starts to dry, all you have to do is add in a little bit of water, just tiny bits at a time, and mix, and that will help it from drying up on you. So that's a little tip as you're going on your project. All right, I just sat that in the sun. Gosh, guys, I can't speak today. For just a few minutes, really. I think it was there maybe less than 5 minutes, and it's all ready to distress. So you don't want it to be completely dry. You can still distress. If it does completely dry, there's still a way to do that, and I'll show you in a minute. But this is just a few minutes dry. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're just gonna run your hands softly over the grout in places where you want to see distressing. And in some places it'll just flake off on its own, and others you're just gonna have to work at it. So I'm just softly adding some texture to my brick. And if you find a spot that's not completely dry, just leave it there for a minute and go on to your other brick. It's almost like sanding off the grout with your finger, just really lightly. This texture reminds me of sand. So if you're doing this and it also reminds you of sand, you kind of know you're doing it the right way. Alright, that one's a little bit wet, so I'm going to let it dry for a little bit longer. Alright, I let my brick sit for a few more minutes and it's ready to go. I can already see where it's starting to dry. There's wider places than there is more cream off-white places, so I know that those places are drying quicker. So I'm going to go back in and just start sanding away with my finger again. When it starts to get dry, a little bit more drier, you can be a little bit rougher with your finger than you were before. And you don't want to distress too many spots unless you really want your brick really distressed. I don't. I like more of the white showing than distressing. And then I'll just outline my brick with my finger so you can kind of see more dimension in that piece of brick. Alright, then I'll come over to this one and do the same thing. Alright, let's pretend like this has already dried. It's all white and I just didn't get to it to distress it. That's when you can bring in some sandpaper, just anything with a rough grit, and lightly sand it down. You don't want to put too much pressure or you're going to take off too much grout. And then I'll just use my sandpaper just to do the finishing touches. Shake off all the dust, or wipe off all the dust if you're working on a wall. And that is that. That is your do-it-yourself brick wall or piece. Super simple and so much fun to do just because you can do your own thing and create it how you want. So this was the before and this is the after. So much fun and so pretty. Also, once you're done, if you'd like to seal it, you can. You can use a polyurethane, or you can, I haven't tried a wax, but I'm pretty sure a wax would be great on this. On my wall, I haven't sealed it yet just because I really love the tough texture of it. If it ever eventually starts to come off slowly, then I'll go in and seal it, but for now it's been really great on my wall. I haven't had any issues.